Good evening. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. With us tonight we have two good friends of mine. We meet over at Panera Bread in Brookfield Saturday morning, starting at 9 generally. It used to be 8 o'clock. Now we've adjusted it to 9 o'clock. And it goes generally 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on Saturday mornings. We've been doing this for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, a long time.
A long time.
Maybe almost a year, maybe. And we just talk about general political subjects and chat about things. And so I have with me, if you'll bring in camera 2 or camera 3. Oh, okay. Cindy Davis and Mark Murash.
Good.
I don't see any camera on.
You got them on screen now?
I don't see any of the lights lit.
The light isn't lit. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
There you
Okay.
go.
Cindy Davis and Mark Murash.
Hi.
I'm going to ask Cindy to tell us a little something about herself. What brought you to this point in time, and what motivates you?
Okay, so I have always been involved in social activism. My involvement with Panera was based upon seeing information about Bernie. So our group with Mark, we've been very active in promoting our beliefs according to Bernie. So that's what brings me here.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mark, tell us a little about something about your artwork, along with what brought you to where you are in time now.
I was a lapsed activist, I suppose, and I always said that I wouldn't get involved until there was somebody who showed compassion, and of course that was Bernie. We have my family, my wife, and we have our junior editor, my wife Ava, Dawn Haidt is the illustrator, and our junior editor, Lucian. We have a magazine called Art Young's Good Morning, which is a resurrection of a satire magazine that ran from 1919 to 1922. And Art Young was the best-known political cartoonist in the country from 1900 to 1940, ran his magazine Good Morning, avowed socialist, and were he alive today at 150 years of age, he would have been illustrating for Bernie. So we thought, what better time than to have the audacity to bring back somebody's magazine from almost a century ago. And so thus came Art Young's Good Morning.
And for those of you out there that say, when they hear the word socialist, socialist, I only ask you to consider, are you a socialist or are you an anti-socialist? Make your choice. I think if you had those two to choose from, I think socialist, or in Bernie's case, democratic socialist,
Correct.
is certainly the more compassionate. Whether you're religious or non-religious, it's as a human being, it's the more compassionate choice of the two. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because that's something that's been on our plates lately, talking about it. Now, Cindy, you've got an event coming up. Would you like to talk about your event coming up with the New Milford?
There's two.
This will actually show after that. But if you'll mention and talk briefly about what the point you're trying to make to the selectmen of New Milford on the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Well, actually, tonight I'm going to do a talk to the town council to motivate them to sign the resolution which Danbury and Middletown have already signed off on, which is anti-TPP. So the resolution was presented in August by people from the Danbury Coalition, not Danbury Coalition, I think the Connecticut Fair Trade Coalition.
Okay.
So they came and they were talking. There was somebody from labor, there was somebody that was dealing with the labor issue. She was a reverend, her name was Pam. There was a woman named Mary Levine who's from Danbury. She was there to talk, so to present the information to the New Milford Democratic Town Democratic Town Council. Okay, but there are 2 events that are now set up. One is in the Roxbury Congregational Church, and that is going to be October 16th. There's an event where people can come to hear about TPP. There's another event that's going to be after the election, and we can talk about that with Obama and the lame duck, and that's going to be on November 18th. So there's a couple of events for people. I'm actually going to try to see if I can do it for Southbury too, for people can hear what TPP is, because market, and we all know that most people do not know what TPP is. They have no idea. Okay.
So what's so bad about the Trans-Pacific Partnership? What on earth is why on earth should we be against something that's called a free trade bill? What's wrong with free?
So I mean, to me, there's sort of the umbrella of it, where at the top, it's 12 countries all signing off on something, and once it's signed, any change that happens needs to be signed off by all 12 countries. So from myself as an editor finding a typo in the thing to needing to change how a resolution is passed, all 12 countries have to sign off, which, given the enthusiasm of the governments, is never going to happen. So if all of a sudden we realize that some unintended consequence happens where there's a power or a law that's undermined that nobody meant, it can't be changed.
Similar to the United Nations Security Council, where any one member of the Security Council can veto anything that comes to their attention.
Correct.
So now, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
The big gist, which I think is what everyone's really riled up about, is that if it gives corporations,
multinational
corporations, right, which in this point of time can essentially be pretty much anything,
correct,
can sue a country if the country attempts to pass a law that can be seen as causing a loss of profits, which is a very huge umbrella of a statement. So if a country decides they're going to put, I don't know, let's be absurdist, uranium in a food, and country B says, we're going to pass a law that says you can't have uranium in your food. Well, that corporation can sue that country and say, well, if you pass a law that says we can't sell this product, well, it's going to cut into our profits. And they can sue in a tribunal of their peers. So
rather than it being representatives from the nation, from the corporation, from an impartial thing, the entire tribunal consists of corporate entities?
Yes, they're peers. And it's funny because it plays on the American freedom of you have the right to a trial by jury of your peers. And in some way, using that terminology is a real kind of kick in the face, I think, to the people of this country. But what it means is that no law will ever get passed that comes close to stepping on the toes of a multinational corporation, because no country would ever risk being sued for billions of dollars. So it essentially means that we lose the right to have our own trade laws and our own consumer protection laws, and it winds up in the hands of these 12 countries.
It's called, its special legal provisions is called the Investor-State Dispute Settlement, and that will then allow the profits of the corporations to have the extra weight, and there's that's what's built into it. So it's based on future earnings into the TPP.
Okay, now let's get away from the uranium thing, because who in the world is ever going to want to put uranium in food? But let's say a country passes a law that places advertisement on the sides of packets of cigarettes, which is not very complimentary, let's say, of the product, which we know kills millions of people and eventually kills pretty much everybody that smokes, and quite often takes along with it folks that just happen to be in the area of the people that are smoking. And I say that because that's apparently happening in a country in Central America right now where that country has put some very graphic pictures on the sides of cigarette packages. And through a process like this, the country is being sued for loss of income, loss of profits, future earnings.
Correct.
And stands not only to have to take those warnings off of the sides of the package of cigarettes, but has to repay. I know it's R.J. Williams. It's one of the major tobacco companies have to repay them for lost revenue and lost profits.
What's kind of interesting, I think, bringing in another issue, bringing in the Dark Act, where now you don't have to label certain things in your foods in this country. So in some ways, they're playing both sides of the coin here. You can, you don't have to say everything that's in your food. You can put a little code to scan with your smartphone if you want to go see the ingredients.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's one of the things that they want to pass, is that rather than putting everything that's there, so we joke, we're a satire magazine.
Yeah.
So we joked that you could have a product called chocolate chip tires. Rocky Road is a flavor. And so, yes, the puns will fly.
Oh my goodness.
So, but you could put in there that they're healthy tires because they're 100% organic rubber.
Correct.
And rubber is?
It's
organic.
It's organic. It's a plant material. Doesn't mean that it isn't processed. But you have the companies now where you can hide what you're putting in them. You can hide if they're GMOs or not GMOs. Yet you can also have it where if someone tries to say, hey, your product is bad, you can sue them on both sides of the coin. So they're essentially taking the entire playing field and trying to say, you don't have to know what's in your food. You have no right to know what's in your food, which I guess is some way of saying, trust us.
Oh.
Okay, trust corporations, trustworthy. I mean, and honestly, I don't think anybody expects companies to think of anyone else above their shareholders and the folks that benefit financially from their product. And that's not, you wouldn't expect them to think that way, and I think that they don't. So this is what happens on a national level. So what? How does this affect us on a local level? How does this affect, let's just hypothetically say the town of New Milford.
Correct.
How does it affect the town of New Milford?
Well, interesting, because a point that I would like to make is once upon in the beginning of the year 2002, I believe, New Milford with the Housatonic Valley Alliance was able to stop a corporation, and I think it was Spectra.
Spectra, yep.
I think it was Spectra. So they were able to stop them from coming in and doing what they wanted to do with the utilities. I think it was during deregulation. So with TPP, the Housatonic Valley Alliance and the townspeople would not be able to stop the movement of the corporation of Spectra. Spectra would do whatever they want. They could change the wetlands. They could change the forest. They could do whatever they want, and New Milford would have no recourse. So what TPP will do is, like, on a local level, it's on a regional level, it's on a state level, and it's on a national level. And that's New Milford. It's interesting, just as a note, that Washington, the town of Washington, with an environmental coalition, passed an ordinance, and I think it was in 2015, where they banned fracking. And so that would not happen with TPP either.
They would not be able to stop it.
They would not be able to stop, correct.
Nor would Litchfield County.
Right.
Nor would the state of Connecticut. Nor would the United States of America.
I hadn't thought about it before until you said that, but
right.
It presents an interesting question. if you were to work right now to try and get every city or every county or every state to try and pass, say, anti-fracking laws now,
Right.
would they hold up being on the books prior to the potential of TPP being passed?
Well, that's also interesting because Malloy was responsible for being involved in legislation which was anti-fracking. But there was some loophole in it, I believe, as well. And this might have been in 15. So he did pass regulation law which was against fracking, but I think it can be played with. But yes, I don't know how that would work.
Because that would be an interesting take on
Correct.
another avenue of fighting TPP beyond trying to get representatives and senators, which is probably another good way to segue into that.
Correct.
Would that be a way to sort of circumvent or subvert, to sort of undermine what TPP would try to do? I hadn't thought about that until you just said that.
They
So
did
that's
it.
kind of interesting.
Washington did it. They had an environmental coalition.
Can state rights or local rights, municipality rights, hold up under the TPP? I guess I have 2,000 pages of reading to do to try.
Well, there's only 600 pages that have been released on TPP. Most of the information in TPP has not been released, and the only way that people have access to it, except for leaks, was by allowing the Congress people to go into this guarded room, and they couldn't take notes. And the lobbyists were the ones that wrote or the lobbyists who were involved in creating TPP. They had full access, but Congress people can't get in to see it, or they have to. It's got to be guarded. And
Well,
it's
we know
only
that that from past history in America that federal responsibility and federal law always
supersedes.
supersedes. I was going to say Trump, but I hate to say that. Now I got to wash my mouth out with soap. Federal law always supersedes state law. If there's a state law that contradicts federal law prevails. I imagine it would go the same way, like a stack of dominoes down the road. And no, I'm not reaching out to Domino's Pizza. Don't send us any free pizza. It would head on down the road that municipal law could not supersede state law.
So this is very interesting because TPP, the rules that TPP make, they override or supersede the Supreme Court or what Congress passes. They have the greatest control, and that goes for the Parliament too.
Yeah, they not only supersede laws that are passed locally, but laws that are passed statewide, laws that are passed federally, and they supersede rulings of the United States Supreme Court. So everybody, you might as well, I guess it tells us basically don't waste your time. Don't waste your time voting for anybody anymore because your legislature's already set, and in the seat of the legislature, the seat in Congress, the seats in the White House, the seats in the Supreme Court. You have Textron, you have Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola. They're the ones that are ruling. Monsanto, that are basically ruling the world and ruling us along with them. This is what we're looking at with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You have some time. You need to let your legislators know. Now, where does we stand our best chance of stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Where can we best look to reach out to in order to stop that?
The belief currently is that, so the plan is that the president wants to bring it to vote in the lame duck Congress. The lame duck Congress being half of everybody is voted out because they lose in November. You have people in there who don't care. They no longer have a job, and they're going to vote for whatever the president says. So he believes that bringing it up when half of the senators, half the representatives don't really have a horse in the race anymore is the best time to vote on something that affects us in this extreme. If that doesn't tell you anything, along with the fact that most of it's secret. Something's bad. So the belief is that if it comes to vote, that the Senate will pass it. So the belief is that we have to go to our representatives. The House of Representatives is the best place to get it voted down. So here in Connecticut, at least, we have 5 representatives that we need to reach out to. And we know currently that 2 of the 5 are on record as being against the TPP. So 2 out of 5 so far is good, and that's Rosa DeLauro
and Joe Courtney.
And Joe Courtney, very much so.
Yep.
As for our others, locally, to us at least, Elizabeth Esty has refused to go on record one way or another as to whether she is for TPP or against TPP. Interestingly enough, and this is the beauty of this election cycle, her Republican opponent is against the TPP and on record as being against TPP. So you've got the Democrats who you would think would be against something that affects people in this way, ability to take jobs overseas, more job battling in terms of bringing wages down. But she seems to be for it, whereas the Republicans against it. And I think the question becomes, why?
And that runs a little bit contrary to what we usually see, where we know the Democratic Party generally sides with people, and Republican Party traditionally sides with corporations.
That's very, yes.
But her opponent in the race, and you'll have to do your own research. I know his name, but I'm not going to tell you because I want you to look it up and do your own reach out. Is somewhat of more of a libertarian guy. And we were talking before we came on about the possibility that within the Congress you might have a coalition, and I'll let you continue from there. What kind of coalition could we build in the Congress to achieve the goal of stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
It's strange bedfellows, as I seem to say to a ridiculous cliche at this point in time, where you've got someone like Mitch McConnell who says, we're going to make sure this doesn't come to vote in the lame duck session. And you think, wait, 7 years of obstructionism might actually come to fruition by stopping the TPP?
There might actually be some good obstructionism.
It might be, and that's the strangest thing, is if you think that TPP is the main pinnacle of the issues that we need to face, we can cross the aisle, which is good. We'll have to ignore the things we disagree on, but that's okay, because if we all agree that TPP is the thing that has to be stopped, then let's stop that. And then we'll talk about the things we disagree with, and that's okay. Like we were saying,
this is politics.
It's politics, but it's also reaching across. It's sort of a libertarian and progressive base, and folks working together. It's kind of like, as we've talked about, Bernie supporters and Trump supporters want the same thing, just from totally different perspectives. They see the need to bring about an end to the establishment. When we were out canvassing for Bernie, there were plenty of Trump supporters who said, you know what, if my guy doesn't get in and your guy does, I happily would vote for Bernie. And you never hear that. Everyone splits along their party lines.
But you never heard it in reverse, from what I can tell.
No, you never heard it in reverse. But that's the amazing, like, we have a chance to reach across the politics and get the different sides working for what's best for the people.
So libertarians and liberals, or progressives if you will, but libertarians and liberals, and we've had many shows where we've had folks that have, libertarians and liberals, myself, and had libertarian guests on that that found a lot of common ground on a lot of things like this Trans-Pacific Partnership. A lot of important issues.
Why, I don't know much about libertarians. Why would they have their views on the TPP?
Why would they be against the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Why would they feel?
I think it's because it's a desire to not have outside control, and a desire to bring government down to its lowest common denominator. They're more inclined to want local towns to be able to decide for themselves. Likewise, a state to be decide for themselves.
Less government.
Smaller
less
government.
Control.
And I can refer to a good friend of mine, Billy Michael, who's a libertarian, has been on, and you know who Billy Michael is. Okay, yep. And we came to the agreement that what binds us together is this belief that that I've lost my train of thought. What would bind a libertarian and a liberal together?
That we need to focus on people.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that it's people-centric. And again, like the difference between Trump and Bernie supporters, we come at the need to bring down the establishment from a different direction.
Yep.
Libertarians and liberals will come from a different point of how we want to protect people and give people a
Yep.
certain individual sovereignty.
Yep.
But there's still that belief that we're at the core of everything.
Okay,
And
life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness on that basic level.
Yeah,
I
very
got
much
it.
so.
Okay, now I
And I've got my
understand.
train of thought back, thankfully.
Choo-choo.
But yeah, the train's back on the track. But where libertarians believe in smaller government, liberals in fact believe in more efficient government. That's to say that say in the case of the United States military group, the companies, the military-industrial complex, if you will, as it's commonly known, that we should not spend so much money on intervening in foreign countries, and we should be doing things, we should be consigning ourselves to working to defend our borders and defend our own country, rather than getting involved in all these wars that are started at the behest of these multinational corporations that procure and sell arms and create armaments, that we should not be making them wealthy at the expense of taxpayers. Now, libertarians, of course, would say the same thing about a lot of other facets of our government, and we can agree to disagree on that, but certainly on things like the military, we can find common ground on in order to make the government run more efficiently. And we're going to come back. We're going to continue our conversation, but we're going to come back and do a second show. So it's Progressive Soup, David Stevenson,
Cindy Davis,
Mark
Cindy
Morash.
Davis, and Mark Morash. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, Thursday, noon 30.
Keep going.
Okay. So where should we take the conversation in the next show?
I think talking about representatives and ways to reach out to folks, you know, angles to go at to try and get local representatives, be it in Connecticut or otherwise, to work toward getting them against the TPP, and what we need as people to be actually heard and to get our representatives to follow what the people want.
I also think that it would be important to talk about how TPP is going to.
Goodbye.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.